Hello and welcome to the F.E.E.L podcast. I've got my staff here with me today. You're going to get to see these people that work behind the scenes that make all the things happen. So much of the magic that you see happen here on the F.E.E.L podcast and on the Embracing Leaders Network as a whole is because of my team. And I've got two of the three here today. The third one may not be able to join, but we've got two of the three here for sure. You're going to get to hear from them not only their perspectives on the season, because they each bring in their own nuanced perspective, but what it is that they do for us and how they take a look at each episode the first time they see it and the lens that they're looking at it through as they prepare to promote parts of it that they do, whether it's on our social media or our blogs or on our website or with our Substack group. There's lots of different ways that my team interacts with you all in ways that you may not even know. So they're going to get a chance to share that today. And I wanted to highlight them and just get their perspectives. We made a lot of shifts this season in this season 8 with, and you heard me talk about this at pretty good length on Thursday as I highlighted the episodes. The biggest impact, I think, for these team members were that we went to 2 episodes instead of 1. So that meant changing the level that they were involved in, the amount of content, doubling really the volume in a lot of ways of what I was asking of them prior to this shift. So without them, there's no way this would have been possible. I had to get buy-in from them to make this happen so that we could bring you twice the guests, twice the resources. So a big thank you to them first off. But I've got Charlotte Feehan and Jessica Garrison with me today. Charlotte does all the magic behind everything you see on social media. That's Charlotte. She's the creator, the thought leader on that. She creates and comes up with the ideas. She's also the one that takes care of our website. So anything you see happening on there, Charlotte has been the one that has done that. Jessica's our author and writer. She's the voice behind Embracing Leaders Unapologetically, our book that's going to be 1 year old next week. She writes the blog. She comes up with the ways to engage. She operates our Substack and our Substack Lives. And she's going to get to share a little bit about that later in the episode as we get ready to kick off a new book club with our book, as well as authors of past podcast guests that are going to be incorporated into that. So a lot of exciting things to share. Our editor, Rio, hasn't been able to join us today, but Rio is the one that goes in and does all of the editing on our episodes, cleans them up, makes pretty the messes that I make when I'm recording. All the bloopers and things you don't see because Rio goes in and does his magic. He also manages our YouTube page and is working on getting that up to speed with our SEO. This fall, we are going to have all video on our YouTube. It's not just going to be video from our panels and our shorts, but it's also going to be video from our podcast episodes. So you can see the video side of our podcast episode on our YouTube page and the audio side on the traditional platforms, Spotify, Apple, our website, Amazon Music, wherever you listen. So that will be Rio in action doing that. He's also a graphic designer. And so he has done our logo rework and any shifts or things that we do with our graphic design. Rio is behind that. But no more from me. You've heard enough from me this week. I'm going to turn it over to my team. One last thing, this team, Charlotte and Jessica, have been with me since almost the beginning. They joined the team 6 months after I started the podcast. In the summer of 2020, when I started the podcast, in January of 2022, they joined our team. So they have been with me from almost the beginning and through all of our iterations. And it's so incredible to have the continuity, to have the relationships, to be able to know how each other operates and works. I fully trust these two to create and do the things they need to do. And I know they'll come to me if they need any help or guidance. And that makes doing this work so much easier. And I'm not able to do what I do and the expansion that we've had from the podcast without their support and help. So I wanted to give them that shout out, and that goes for Rio too. Charlotte, let's start with you. Tell me about what stood out for you in this season's episode, whether it was funny, made you think, made you cry, made you see something in a new way? Give me your insights on this season's episodes.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say really quick, my Wi-Fi just said it's unstable. So if at any time I cut out, just let me know. And I'm happy to repeat what I said. It was fine all day. And now that I hopped on the live, it decided to do it. So just let me know.
Okay.
I had this was one of my favorite seasons of the podcast so far. And part of it is the fact that we just had so many episodes. So there were so many fantastic guests to get to hear from and so many different perspectives that were being brought to the podcast each week. And really having those 2 guests a week. Some of them like had themes I noticed that overlapped, and some really stood by themselves. And I noticed things in the episodes that really stuck with me. Points that really stuck out with me. One of the first episodes I wanted to mention, one of the recent ones, the one with that was one of my favorite episodes this season so far. And I loved the anecdote that she said, it doesn't have to be a special occasion. There doesn't have to be anybody watching. You can just make yourself a fancy steak sandwich. And I thought that analogy was just so down to earth and realistic. And it's something that I don't think about when I'm in my day to day. Like I'm so busy. And so, there's always so many things going on. And sometimes I don't just stop and kind of do something for myself just because I want to. And so I think that she brought up a really great point in that, you deserve to do something nice for yourself. It doesn't have to be a special occasion. Just do it. So that was one of the things that I really resonated with. Something else that I really enjoyed was in the episode with Tina Mystery. I loved how she talked about boundaries and her scheduling and how calendars can be such an important tool when it comes to our boundaries. Because again, I think it's something I need to be a little bit more about in that when I think of, a day that I'm calling in sick to work or that I have an appointment, I kind of reserve that time for those kinds of duties and responsibilities. And she was making such a point that sometimes, if you schedule in family time and if you schedule in time that you're working on something, even if it's not with a client, even if it's just something that will help you for the day's work that you have ahead of you, it's so important to write those things in because you don't want to kind of shortchange yourself of the time that you have in the day. You want to maximize it. You want to make sure that you kind of, setting those healthy boundaries for yourself so you don't wear yourself too thin. And I think it's really important that we prioritize ourselves and the things that go on in our personal lives just as much as the things that go on in our professional lives or in our work lives or whatever other responsibilities that we have. So I really thought that was a great point that she made and something that I want to be more mindful of. So it was really inspiring to me. And on that same note, I really loved what Susan Holberg said in her episode. One of my favorite analogies this season was that race car analogy that she gave.
Yes, the pit stops.
Yes, we have to take those pit stops. Sometimes you think it's going to take too much time if I have to stop and think about something or kind of give myself a minute to get back on track. But they do it all the time in those races. And those are super high speed, super intense races. Why can't we allow ourselves that same kind of principle? So I really love that she said that because if we don't take that time, if we don't stop and refuel, literally like the race car, then we risk spinning out and we risk, if we don't fill our own cup, we can't pour into others. It's the same thing with the race car. If we don't kind of stop and refuel ourselves, we risk spinning out. And then it's going to take more of a toll on us than if we just stopped in the first place and kind of sat with it for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. I love those ones too. I love Anna Prizzi because I think so unapologetic, so living out of her own expectations. I mean, just such a good example of that. Tina Mystery is one of my good friends here that I've made in Fresno in the last year. So that calendar analogy is such a great example of you are every bit as valuable and worthy of being in your calendar as everything else. So make sure you don't miss out on that. And it's an opportunity. Another guest that talked about that too is Andrea Pass. And so to get it from both Andrea and Tina, that reminder that your calendar can be your partner in this, and it can be your protector. It can be the one that kind of shields you from those things you might want to say yes to. It's like, nope, not room in my calendar, not space there, gonna do this. So it can really be that kind of hedge that you need to protect yourself. So I love that so much. And yes, I mean, it's Suzanne Kohlberg, so much good stuff from her. I mean, she has such a handle on healthy boundaries. She's so funny. And I love that pit stop is so relatable. It's just something we can all visualize in our heads. So I love those examples. Jess, what about you? What stuck out to you this season?
I agree. I also was a huge fan. Like, I remember telling you, Melissa, that before the Anna Prizzi episode came out, I had just listened to it and I was like, this episode is going to be so good. Like, I'm so excited to write the blog on it. Like, I love her just sitting in her bed, like just doing life. It's like, I love that. I thought there was this great theme throughout the season of like self-worth and women recognizing, like, because that goes into the self-care. Like, you're not going to take care of yourself if you don't see that you're worth it. The same with boundaries. You're not going to stand up for yourself if you don't think you're worth standing up for. And like looking over my notes, Jennifer Johnson was talking about her experience as a nurse. And she was like, they're saying they don't have nurses to do this work, or to like, that nobody wants to work these days, what people say. And it's like, no, they just aren't going to do all this work 12-hour days for such little pay, no benefits. It's like, we're just fed up with not being treated like our jobs are worth anything or we're worth anything. And that kind of standing up for herself, like in the workplace, standing up for other women in the workplace and making sure they're getting what they're deserving of. So I really love that theme of like telling ourselves and other women around us, like, you're worth it to take care of yourself. You're worth it to eat the steak sandwich all by yourself that you made gourmet for yourself, like to take yourself to the movie you want to see. And like, you're not bad for eating that piece of cake for dessert. Like, you wanted it, you're worth it, you can have it. Like, just trying to be happy and supporting other women and doing that as well. Like, that's been my favorite consistent thing that I've seen so far.
Yeah, I agree. And Jen Johnson, I think I laughed. I forgot when I listened to that episode again. I was like, I laughed so hard in this episode, like to the point of like, oh my gosh. I mean, I had so much fun with her. And also like her villain era piece is like one of the best things ever. I'm like, I'm like, yes, I love this so much. And I talked about all of these episodes too, as I was reviewing them on Tuesday, and I mentioned that. I'm like, ladies, it's worth checking that out in itself. I mean, just such a crack up. But she's, she saw she's seeing the impact, and there's so much irony in the healthcare industry of how they're out there taking care of everybody else, but they're being asked by their organizations they're working for, whether it's a hospital, a clinic, whatever, to do these insane hours and shifts that are completely unhealthy and really make it impossible for them to be fresh and alert as you would want your healthcare practitioner to be. I mean, so it's like, man, what are we doing about this? I mean, don't we want to make sure that these people of all people are alert and attuned when they're taking care of us? I mean, I'm like, we have really missed that, and it makes no sense to me. So the fact that people like her are finally standing up and saying, no, we're just not going to abandon ourselves anymore to do this. It's not good for us, and it's not good for our patients. Nobody wins in this scenario. So yeah, I love what she brought up there too. So good. When you approach Charlotte, when you see an episode the first time, talk to people about what your approach is as you go in and start thinking about, because you've got to figure out what reels might be good and sound bites and messages, because you're coming up with multiple messages from this. So talk to me about your approach when you walk into an episode.
Yeah. So part of the thing that I love about doing our reels and our videos for our social media is that I really get to kind of dive into the episode, and the parts that stuck to me were resonating with me or inspiring me in some way. And so I just love, first of all, getting to listen to the episode through and kind of hearing those moments where I'm like, ooh, that was really good. And when I note those things, I do something. So I edit in Premiere Pro and I do a flag. So anytime that I hear something that I like and I want to go back to, I just like hit the little M button and it marks a little flag of something that I want to go back and revisit. So that really helps me kind of limit out some of the main points that I think were very engaging and that I think would be engaging to our audience as a whole. So I take those markers in the audio clip and in the video clip, and then I kind of listen back to the ones that I picked out. I usually pick out about 5 or so per episode, and I usually try to align it with our talking points. So I will oftentimes read the blog that Jessica wrote. So it is a very collaborative effort. And I'll kind of read through the talking points to get of the things that we're going to hear in the episode. So that way, when I'm listening back to it, I know what's focused on in the blog. And then that way, when we do the social media promotions, it'll all tie together. And then once I do that, it's really about finding the one that's best suited for the time frame on social media. So some of the points are really great, and I would love to, highlight that. But with TikTok, with Reels, a lot of times you have to engage the listeners in the first few seconds. So I try to pick things that kind of dive right into the point, something that I think a lot of women would benefit from hearing, and a lot of just our audience in general would benefit from hearing. And something that's like a really good piece of advice or a reminder or something that I just think somebody needs to hear today. And once I kind of select those points, I cut them down. If there's something that's kind of repetitive, I cut certain parts out and kind of splice it together in a way that's concise and maintains attention for, that short moment that you have to engage somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've done research behind this too. Like you've gone in and I was like, go in and do some research and see, because we were noticing that there were some shorts and reels that were really hitting and others were doing all right. But it's like, what is it about those ones that were really hitting? And you were able to do some research and find that we had a couple of talking points that seemed to get more attention than others. So Charlotte's work doesn't just go into not just, but it's beyond the scope of looking at the episode. She's also watching our social media for trends and what you all as listeners and followers are engaging with to make sure that she's pulling out, in conjunction with what Jess is doing on the blog, things that are going to really resonate with you. And so there's a lot of time in it, but you got to have an ear for it. And Charlotte has an ear for it. And what I appreciate so much about both of these two is they understand our mission. They came on board and were interested in this work because they understood and wanted to be part of this. And so their heart is as invested in it as my heart is invested in it. And so they're being able to make those connect points. It's not just a job. It is something that is for Charlotte, she gets to really use that film and editing side of her. That's really her creative side. She gets to tap into that here, and that in conjunction with having a connection with the material. So I always she'll pull something out like, oh, she nailed that one. Or I can't tell you how many times I listen to an episode and I'm like, gosh, I hope that's the one she pulled out. And I will listen to it like, yes, it's the one she pulled out. So that's always fun to see too, as we're putting these all together. When it comes to the quotes, Charlotte, what are you looking for because there's many times for the second follow-up post on an episode, you'll grab a quote. What are you looking for there?
When I look for those kind of quotes for the more graphic posts on social medias, I follow a lot of other accounts that I kind of gain inspiration from, a lot of daily dose of inspiration accounts and daily reminder accounts or self-care quote accounts. And I get a lot of inspiration from there, kind of seeing what points hit for a lot of people. And then within that, finding those connect points within our content. So something like you can't pour from an empty cup, that would hit and resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that also can make for a cute graphic. So I try to think, is there something cute I can do? Like with Super Bowl's episode, I put little race flags on the "you need to stop and refuel" quote. So thinking if there's like a cute little visual, like, or like a little chart that can go along with something that will help you kind of remember it and like remind yourself of that. And then something that would be eye-catching. I was scrolling on social media because I do follow a lot of those kinds of self-care quote accounts. And what kind of thing would I want to stop and bookmark or save on my account? So those are just things that I kind of look out for. And also, again, trying to align it with some of the things that were highlighted in the blog. Sometimes it will be something similar to, like, if it's just such a powerful quote and I used it in the reel, sometimes I will overlap and put it as a graphic. You know, sometimes you're scrolling through TikTok and then sometimes you're on Instagram. And if that's not on the real cover, it doesn't say like, you know, self-care or whatever the talking point is, you might not realize that that's in that video. Like we said, again, like it's a very quick kind of point. That video, because you're scrolling pretty quick, you might be caught more by the graphics. So sometimes if it's like a point that we really want to drive home, using that in both the reel that week and the graphic. But if there's just something else that I think would resonate better for the graphic post, then kind of changing it up and differentiating it across platforms. So, you know, TikTok and Reels will get this little nugget of insight, and then Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn will get this little quote graphic that's a little different from what was in the reel. So it all kind of is a week to week basis and what I think those kind of hard hitting points will be.
Yeah. And you also, that's the other thing you have to do too, is each of those platforms is looking for a little different thing. So it's also, you're figuring out, okay, what is going to feed this algorithm? What is this platform going to respond to so that those that are following, it's going to get to them. So there's a whole kind of an art form to figuring that piece out too, which you've been able to figure out over the years and being able to differentiate accordingly. So that's a whole other piece and part of your job. Talk about your work that you do on the website.
Yeah, so now that we've branched out into so many different areas, it's been interesting to see kind of how that unfolds on the website. We've launched, even just in the last year, we've done more episodes and blogs, double the amount. Then we've done the book. We launched the online course. So just seeing all these new exciting projects and then finding a space for them on the website has been such a rewarding experience. Just, you know, it's, again, that differentiation of content and kind of appealing to wider audiences. So, you know, some people would rather read a book. Some people would rather listen to a podcast or read a blog post rather than a book or take a class. So all of those things really have their own audience. So I think it's great that we have a network that has such variety like that, and that there's something for everybody. And I feel like our mission really does, you know, apply to a lot of people, but it's just like how to reach them. So just finding those ways on the website, what will grab them and what will make them be like, ooh, that sounds like something I'd be interested in. So when we set up those pages, kind of making sure the mission statement or the like vision that we have for that project is displayed and that people kind of know what it's all about and what we're all about.
Yeah. And the work that Charlotte's put into this, because the other thing, and I'll give Jess a chance to talk about this too, I've asked my team to do is to really start taking a look at the SEO piece. And the SEO piece is something none of us knew anything about when we started this a few years ago. And we started hearing like, you got to figure that out so you can make sure that your information and your content is reaching you know, a broader audience. And so I on top of all the other new things I add, I'm like, okay, and we got to do this too. And so it's been fun to watch because our website is now ranking on Google. I mean, I'm now getting, you know, every month I get an update at the end of the month on how many times people searched for us on Google. And that wasn't happening a year ago. And so just the work that intentional work that Charlotte's been able to put in to there as she presents all these new things and creates pages in a way that people are going to find them, and the continuity, and again, that algorithm that you got to feed. A huge shout out to the work that she continues to do on that as our platforms continue to grow, and as we continue to look at platforms to make sure that we still fit there. I mean, and we're so being conscious of that too. So much good stuff there. All right, Jessica, your turn. Talk to people about when you go into an episode, what it's like for you, what you're looking for.
Yeah, so when I first start with an episode, I will listen to it either the raw version. Usually I start with the raw version on StreamYard or Zencastr, wherever we have it. And I always take notes. Like, I make bullet points of each talking point and write down like the things that stick out the most to me. And, no matter what, like even in the beginning, I'm like, I'm probably going to write about this in the blog post. It's like, I got to get all the way through because there's so much good stuff. Sometimes I end up incorporating like the first thing they talk about with the last thing, because it'll come back around together. And then just making sure that like listening also to the edited version after Rio has finished it, just to make sure we're like on the same page with if sometimes people want things like cut out, or sometimes there's an edit made that just because they said, I talked about this, but I really don't want to share it, like whatever it could be. But mostly for looking at where to start with the blogs, I just kind of read them briefly through the list, and I'm like, what really like stuck out to me the most, or what was this person really passionate about, or what was different with this? What quote did I like underline 3 times and put a star next to? And I'm like, we need to make sure this gets out there in the world, like no matter what it is. And then I kind of start from there and somehow end up getting like this big whole long like paragraph of run-on sentences, and I need to go back and edit, but it's like I just have all this stuff I want to get out and want to say, and then we kind of have to like reel it in just a little bit. Like people don't always have the time to sit and read like a 5-page thing. So then it kind of cut it down, where you also said about Charlotte picks out such good quotes. Like if there's a piece that I didn't include just because it wasn't in the theme, or like whatever I was going for in the blog, like she always grabs like such good quotes and like clips that I'm like, yes, this needs to go out there too, that we don't always have time for written wise.
Yeah.
And the ways to engage, it doesn't always necessarily have to do with the blog. Sometimes I think about advice that maybe they give in the episode. Like they say, this is what I try to do for myself. Like the Anna Prizzi one that I remember was like, write down things you do for yourself and versus what you do for other people. And it's like, okay, that's a great ways to engage that she does, that she says has really helped her. And I think that that's something other people could try. So we're always trying to get like different ideas going.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's my process.
Well, and I think too, I want to give a shout out to you because I challenged you about 1.5 years ago. I'm like, okay, let's make this like 1 page, just give them a hint. Because it's really hard to go in and not tell the whole story, because there's so much good information coming from our guests. And so I was like, okay, let's not give too much away in the blog so that they don't feel like they have to listen to the episode. And so I really challenged her to like squeeze it down and really find those highlights and find those points that stuck out to you. And you don't have to hit on every talking point. Just find, and then those, and you nail the ways to engage. Like I used to like offer my help. She doesn't need my help on. I'm like, you don't need my help on this. And I also like having both of your lenses on things. I mean, that's one of the great things about being able to trust you with this is you will see and hear things that I won't see and hear. And especially with me doing the conversations and then listening back to, I probably listened to these conversations 5 or 6 times, before they finally have gone out in the world. And so it's good to get fresh sets of ears from all 3 of you on what you hear, what sticks out to you, because you're in different stages of life than I am. You're in different stages of life, even though you're similar in age to each other. You live in different states, you have different experiences. So being able for you all to have your eyes on it and all pull different lenses according to what's resonating with you gives a broader experience to our audience too, which I love. But you just grasped that, and she's like, all right, I'll do it. And she nailed it. I mean, now it's just like, I don't even feel like I do read the blogs, because I need to know what's in them, because it's important to me that we all know what's going out there. But I'm not like, I don't make many edits these days. I might have an idea here and there, or maybe a guest has given me some feedback on something, but it's, I don't have to like, these guys are they're got their finger on so well, and on our audience, on our listeners, and on our content, that it's really fun just to see what you all create. It's really, I just look forward to reading how you experienced that. I think that's the most fun for me. The other thing I've asked Jess to do, since she writes the blog, we use that blog to help us form our messaging that goes out in terms of our SEO messaging as we promote it across our show notes on our platforms and our social media platforms. And so Jess has taken the lead on that and setting that precedent out there too. That's another level. Another thing I have you do is newsletters. Talk to me about your newsletter process, because Jess is really good at, sometimes I come up with topics for her, and other times she finds them. She'll look at monthly themes that are happening. She'll look at themes in our episode. She'll look at things that we have coming up or that we just had happen. So talk to me about your newsletter process.
Yeah. Well, we have our click up calendar that has like, holidays or like obviously scheduling things, but then I can kind of see like, oh yeah, these two guests are in the same month, and this is like mental health awareness month, and that goes really good as a theme together, and we can put that on one page and put resources and things like that. So I just try to pay attention to what is like currently happening and what is coming up soon, because we also have all these things going on that if people maybe like aren't subscribed to our Substack, they'll see it on the newsletter on Instagram or something else, and that'll say like, for example, we were talking about our book club. We did the live last night. And I put that on the newsletter. Like, if you want more information, this is where you can find it. And I always send the newsletter to everybody, like Charlotte and Rio, because you guys are like the big design people, like everything looks so nice aesthetically. So I'm like, will you guys please just double check it, make sure everything's good. And everyone's always so nice and checks for me and make sure everything looks good. But I'm always like, I hope this looks okay. But I have a lot of fun genuinely doing it. Like, I normally will make all the bubbles and pictures and everything. And then I'm like, all right, now I got to figure out how I'm fitting this in here and what page is this for. But I mean, I really enjoy making them and kind of putting the puzzle together for that.
Yeah. You do such a great job with that. And what I like about the newsletters too is because we have all these different platforms. We have our social media platforms. We have our website. We have our podcast, our YouTube, our Substack. And so it's a place you can go and kind of like, oh, okay, that's where we connect all these dots. That's where we can find that. So if it's something you're interested in that you're not already following that or subscribed to that, you can jump on, and the newsletter does a great job of bringing that together. You are the author of our book. I could not have done this book without you. And so talk to me about what it's been like for you. You have been an author for almost a year now, officially. The book went. So talk to me about what that feels like.
Well, same to you. I could not have done it without you. So I appreciate, and Charlotte and Rio and Valencia and Michaela and everybody who's been on our team, Abby, all these wonderful people. It's been so exciting, like, to be able to say, like, I did that. Like, that's great. Something I've always wanted to do. And I feel like shortly after the book came out, people were like, well, when are you going to write the next one? Well, when's the next one coming out? And I'm like, I just want to, like, it just came out, guys. I just want to live in this and enjoy it. Like, it just came out. I'm not like rushing to go do something else. Like, let's just enjoy this time, this like grace period, because so much time, effort, energy, hard work went into this. So I just want to see it how it is. But to like, when we had like that first tangible like hard copy that I got to hold, I was like, this is like a moment I did not think would come for like so many more years.
Yeah.
Like the fact that I'm writing about things that I feel very passionate about, like that's just like the cherry on top of it all.
Yeah. My favorite thing about the book is that you really get to hear Jess's voice in it. Yes, we did it together. Yes, I was the content editor. Yes, these are people that I talked to in episodes. All that is true. But Jess brings her experience into this. She brings her examples. Her voice really speaks throughout it. And I love that because it's another representation of multi-generational voices, multi-generational experiences, so that no matter who you are, what phase of life you're in, there's something in there for you that you can connect with. And it's where we discovered our ways to engage. You know, that if without the book, I'm not sure, maybe we would have come up with that eventually. I don't know, but that really introduced that way for our followers and listeners to engage with our content, is having those ways to engage where you can jump in and really dive into each of the talking points personally and apply them to your life personally and have that way to do that. So that was really the birthplace of that. And I feel like that really opened up a whole other area for you to tap into in your writing. And just so you all know, I've told Jess multiple times, keep taking notes, keep being ready. At some point, we'll do another volume of this because, that was the first 4 seasons. Well, we're wrapping up season 8 now. So there's a lot more guest wisdom that we have to tap into and share, but we want to give this thing a time to breathe. Not to mention, it's a process to do a book. It was a year and a half of very committed work to get this first one out. And I want it to have the time to breathe and get out there, and also us to have the time to really settle into all that we have created before we just jump into that next one. But I know what you mean. People always want to know what that next thing is. I'm like, let's just be present in what we have now. Let's just, I've talked a lot about that with you guys. Yeah. Let's just be like, this was a process. Let's just settle into it and be present and make sure people know about this. And yes, there will be a time for that next volume, but just know that Jess behind the scenes, as she's doing these things, and I'll have her talk about all of her Substack and book club responsibilities in a minute, is consistently keeping those notes as we start thinking about down the line whenever we decide to do volume 2 of our book. So that's always trickling in the background. But speaking of books, talk to me about the Substack lives, the Substack period. That's a place where I really have told you, take possession of this. This is yours to operate out of. We started doing lives. I think Substack having a lives option really opened things up for us. I mean, into a whole other way. And now we've got this book club that's coming from there. You did the live yesterday to introduce the calendar for that. So give everybody that's listening a little bit of an update and explain all that you engage with on there.
Yeah, so the Substack, it's at the F.E.E.L podcast. Our Substack is basically where you can find our content. Like the blogs get uploaded there the day before the episode drops. So you can read the episode, kind of get a feel for what it's going to be like. And then always in the description, I'll put like a link where you can listen to the episode. That's also where I put the newsletters. The radio show is archived on Substack. The lives are archived on Substack, and that's where we're going to be having our book club. And the book club we thought of because we were having all these authors in our network. We have all these author friends, and we're always talking about writing and how we all love to read. And we want people to be having deeper discussions about our book. We want them to reach new audiences. So we all just want to support each other that way. And a lot of great women have committed to our book club, which we're so excited about. A few of them were on the Substack Live, and a couple of them are ones that we didn't get to have yet, but they were really supportive and there for us when our book came out. So we want to offer them an opportunity to explore their book. And September 19th is a Wednesday. That's when we're having our first book club with Embracing Layers Unapologetically. We're going to start with ours, of course, to kind of get a feel for everything. And we did do a book club before. We did with our Patreon, people who pre-ordered the book. We offered them an opportunity to do book club. and we went through a chapter or 2 chapters like every week. And it was a great time. Like, we didn't have like a lot of people there, but the discussions that we had, I thought were so important and able to connect with new people and talk to new people. And I'm excited to be able to do this with our other authors because there's not many book clubs. I said this last night on the live. Not many book clubs. You have the author right there to answer your questions and to discuss the book with you. So I think that part is so exciting that it's like we're going to be reading their book and be like, wow, you wrote this, published it. Talk to us about behind the scenes. Talk to us about what you learned writing this. Talk to us about how you healed after writing this, like whatever it could be. We have like such an array of books too to choose from.
Yeah.
So that's coming up quick, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. So if that sounds interesting to you, and we've got, so who's, tell them some of the authors, and putting you on the spot here because I didn't tell you this beforehand. So just do the best you can. Some of the authors and books besides ours, there's going to be, after we finish ours, then we go right into the next book with another author. Who are some of the people that are going to be participating in this book club besides us?
So our friend Kim Mosman with Reflections of Joy. If you go to our Substack and look at the live from last night, I put in the description where you can like find these books and watch their lives to see them talk about it. But we have Kim Mosman with Reflections of Joy, Dr. Doreen McCauley and Dr. Janelle Wells. We have their book, Our Invisible Work, like is in their visible work because it's like a play on words there. We have theirs as well as Dana's. She has a trilogy, but we're starting with the first one, Gasping for Air. And that's like a memoir from her. So those are 3 that we have pinned down at the moment. We also have books featuring themes of immigration, menopause, poetry, all kinds of different things. So there's definitely a variety in there for people.
Yeah, there's a variety of topics, a variety of books, fiction and nonfiction. And I think such a great, I mean, like Jess said, I mean, we're offering you a gold opportunity to have a book club with the author. I mean, that is just almost unheard of. So you get to hear it right from the source, and also a chance to learn maybe about some topics that you wouldn't have had a chance to otherwise or wouldn't have thought of on your own. And what a great opportunity to learn and become more curious and know how to show up even more so for different women and different stories and experiences. Maybe you know some people that are having these experiences and now you've got another resource for them, or maybe you don't know they're going through it. And one day you find out they are, and you've read this book or learned from this author. So there's just so many opportunities. So I always tell people, don't look at the books and decide if you are going to do it based on the books. Look at the women and look at the opportunity to grow and learn and have that and be in a community and hear from the authors and learn something maybe you wouldn't have had a chance to otherwise, and have that be your deciding factor on whether you're joined. So my challenge on that. So so Jess has got a lot going on right now too. And mind you, both of these women have other jobs. This is not the only thing they're doing. So they both have other work that they do. If I could hit the lottery and pay them full time, I would do that in a nanosecond. That hasn't happened yet, maybe someday. So they're doing this while working other very full-time jobs. So I appreciate them even more for that. Like I said, I wouldn't be able to do what I do without the two of you. Before we wrap up today, Charlotte, what is a takeaway in your time that you've had here that you'd like to share so far with the audience in this time that we've been together for, almost 2.5, almost 3 years now? What is something that really stands out to you?
So one thing that I really has always stood out with me is, it's kind of on the nose, but embracing layers, all of the things that make us who we are, and not kind of letting one layer define who we are. So like you said, we work more than one job. We have a lot of different interests. There are so many different things that make us who we are beyond just one identity. For example, I'm a teacher is my other kind of, that's my full-time job outside of doing social media work. And I'm lucky enough that I get out of school early enough to be able to do this too, because this was something that, you know, I went to school, I loved film, I always loved social media, I spend a lot of time on social media. So kind of combining the things that I love, the education aspect and the making and like the more creative digital production side of things, I just think has been just in my work life alone, embracing those two kinds of sides of me that make me who I am. And then in addition, I'm a twin. So, you know, embracing all the things that come along with that and all the different things that I like to do. I like to collect antiques, but I also like to go to concerts, and there's not really a rhyme or reason for all of the things that make me who I am. But that's what's so great about hearing all the women and all the people that we have on the podcast is a lot of them have these interests or things that you wouldn't know about, or these kind of other sides of themselves. A lot of the time in the episodes that we heard about where, you know, like the episode with the nurses or episodes about mothers, a lot of the times we kind of get streamlined into one piece of our identity that does not at all define who we are or could not possibly quantify all of those things that make us so unique. So just listening back to a lot of those episodes really resonated with me, because I feel like a lot of people kind of expect you to like pick one thing, and that's so far from how this all works. So I think that's been something that has resonated with me from the beginning, and that I've just come to realize kind of in the more people I meet, the more people I hear from on the podcast, and the more things that I kind of take on in my own life.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you talked about the nuance and your different interests, because, you know, it's just, there's so many pieces and parts to us. And it's why I introduce guests by their character traits. It's why it's one of the first things I do when I'm working now with women one-on-one or speaking to them is we talk about the layers. We talk about getting familiar with the layers, acknowledging the layers, accepting the layers, and then identifying who they are, knowing that these layers ebb and flow through time, and our titles and roles ebb and flow through time. And so for you all to be able to have a handle on that at the season of life you're in and not figure that out 10, 15, 20 years from now, I think is such a gift too, that you have that understanding already. I think is going to serve you so well. Thank you so much for that. So good. Jessica, how about you?
Yeah, I feel like we've like over the years learned so much and have grown so much, and we have such a community behind us. Like it's incredible all the people we've met and how like I'll follow them on Instagram and see all this great work they're continuing to do like outside of the show, and I'm like, I would have never known about this person, I would have never known about this organization or anything like that if we hadn't had them on the show. And there will be times like a quote sticks with me or an example. And when I'm talking to someone and I'm like, well, hey, have you ever thought to do this? Or have you ever tried this? And I take things from the show that other people have said and done. And they're like, oh, that's a great idea. I'm like, oh, wow, we have a podcast episode and that's where I got it from. So we have a lot of great wisdom coming from that. And to be able to like write 2 blogs every week. Like I went from doing like 1 blog a month to now I get to do 2 a week. And I just love to write. So being able to be given that opportunity to like continue to get better. And you always offer, like everyone does, but especially you always offer like, you know, good criticism, constructive feedback, like praise, everything like to help us grow and learn in like a professional environment, which is also such a great experience we've been able to have. But I'm also just like so proud of our network, and to say like, this is what I do. And everyone's like, that sounds like you. I'm like, yes, it's great work we're trying to do here. And, you know, we get to talk to so many people who are doing great work out there. So it, you know, sometimes the world feels very dark and shadowy and like no one else cares about anybody else. But then I like get reminded there's a lot of empathetic, good people out there who are trying their best to make the world a better place. So, you know, it's very inspiring and kind of wakes me up a little bit sometimes when I start to get like those cynical thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I think that this work is what helps me keep my hope. I mean, I'll give today as an example. I got to have the most diverse. I do pre-meets with all of our guests before they come on our platforms to make sure to get to know them a little bit more, see if they have questions, make sure it's a good fit, all those kinds of things. I had conversations with women all over the world. I had a conversation with a woman from Belgrade, Serbia. I got to learn about how in Serbia, this is fairly new in Serbia in the last few years, where they offer women, once they're pregnant, paid time off during their pregnancy and all the way through the first year after the baby is born. Mind
Wow.
blowing. Did not know that exists. One of the most, like, I've talked to women in many, many countries. That's the most progressive country I've heard in that. It's fairly new. Like she said, it's just in the last few years it's become this. But that's something I never knew before. I would never known if I hadn't talked to this woman from Belgrade, Serbia about her story. And so, the internet and all these opportunities, and then I connected with another woman she and I's vision is very similar. She's doing things, but in her own way, in her own lane. The way she approaches it is a little more one-on-one, not as much the broader reach that we have. So having an opportunity to share her voice and what she offers on our platform and being able to meet someone you've never met before and just be in sync with them and get excited when you hear them believing and trying to help women in the similar areas that you're trying to do it, and knowing like there's so many of us out here trying to do this. And it just gives me so much hope, and it keeps me believing that if we could just come together and really focus on living out of our values and knowing what they are and embracing our layers and investing in ourselves first, then we could operate from a healthy place where then we could show up in the world in such a healthier way. And if we can just do that one person at a time, we really can shift narratives. And when we come together as women to not only support ourselves, but each other in doing that, we really can shift narratives. And I've talked to hundreds of women now, which is wild to think about. And Jessica mentioned our network. We have this incredible network that I think I underestimate, or I didn't understand, I think is the best way to put it. When we started doing this, I expected our listeners to be our network. And that certainly is the case. That is certainly a part of that exists. But the network, that real foundation, has been the women that have come on as guests and then have continued to come on as panelists, that have continued to be advisors and participants and supporters of mine and of our work, that I can take something to, like our online course, and have 5 women with me be a beta group and give me feedback and support and create a workbook for. I mean, all these things that we do in collaboration with each other to support each other, to having these conversations and uplifting each other. And just, I'll get these random messages from them, just shout outs of support that I would have never known about 5 years ago. And to think that I would not know the women I know now, I can't imagine my life without these people in it now. And so, yeah, I think it's just such a gift that we've been given. And that was the part of the gift that I didn't fully comprehend or understand. It's one of the biggest, greatest things that I'm grateful for every single day. So yeah, I think and the people, just the people and things that we know about and learn about. When I got off with the woman, before that, I talked to a woman who has an absolutely fascinating story. She's a former NFL wife, and she talks about identity and losing your identity and all the different spaces and places that you go through when you go through that. And we ended up having some similarities in her background that I didn't see coming. And so having these, that's how I started my day, was with these conversations. And it's like, that's a great way to start your day. And I get to, and this gets to be part of my work. So that's just a small snippet. So yeah, I think that what we've been able to experience and see and learn from, it helps us to be like, no, there's people out there every day and they're trying, and we did an episode on the panel a couple weeks ago of, make a difference from where you sit. And that's exactly what these women are doing. Is there's a way, and go check that panel out. It's a great panel. There's 3 of us on the panel. Summer's been a little wild. Everybody's been out doing their thing. So our panels have been a little smaller, but not any less mighty. Really good, voices and wisdom and insights there. But remembering as we talk to these women and hear from mostly women, we heard some guys every once in a while. We had a really great episode with Logan Hefford this season. I'm looking back at our last few seasons, and we tend to average a guy a season these days, because there's just some topics that transcend, gender, that just need to be talked about as a collective and as a whole. But yeah, we're just so grateful. Well, I'm so grateful for the 2 of you. Grateful to Rio as well. Another note about Rio is that the song that you hear on our podcast that opens and closes our podcast, Rio and his sister Valencia San Luis, who, if you follow our platform, Valencia put me in the hot seat last month on our anniversary episode and asked me the talking points. So if you're curious about what I had to say about the talking points, go back and check out that episode. It was on in July, but Valencia co-founded this with me, and her and Abby Bakel and I back in July of 2021. Well, Rio, our editor, is Valencia's brother. And so he slid right in, and it's been with us for, we're coming up on 4 years. It's been 3.5 years you guys have been with me, not 2.5, 3.5 years with you 2, and 2.5 years with Rio. Wow, I'm losing count here. I slighted you guys a year. It's been even longer than I thought. But Rio and Valencia wrote that song, and it's them, and recorded it together. So not only did so that just gives you the idea of the level of creativity that exists on my team, that I'm so fortunate to have around me. So yeah, I asked them a few years ago to create an original song for us, and they did. They did, because we were running into issues having music that we weren't going to get in trouble from Spotify for having as our music. Every time it was okay, something changed, we have to move it. I'm like, you know what? We just need our own original song. And I knew Valencia could sing. I've known Valencia for a long time, so I knew she had it in her. And Rio has all kinds of surprises up his sleeve. Rio was with us for 1.5 years before I realized he was a graphic designer. So that's all. And so then I put him to work on that. So I think he's maybe afraid to tell me some of the things he does, because he's afraid I'm going to give him more jobs to do. But yeah, so shout out to them. So that song is an original song from our very own team that was written and created and recorded by them. So very gifted people on this team. Thank you both of you for joining me today, for sharing your background and story and what you do here. I think it's really beneficial for everybody to know that, and for you guys to get highlighted, because again, they get to see my mug a lot. They don't always get to hear from you all. So I'm thankful for you all for joining me today, and for all you do for our platform.
Yes, thank you for having us.
No, it's nice to be on this side of the podcast again. I feel like it's been a little bit since our kind of episodes that we did with you, because those were pretty much soon after we joined. And now, like you said,
I know,
I look at everything with the pandemic clock. I'm like, oh yeah, ever since the pandemic. And at one point that was 1 year. So I was using that as my 1 year clock. And now I'm like, it's going on. That's startling, because it'll be 6 years now in March. But
I know.
My clock in that way, and the pandemic clock is crazy times.
I know. It really is true. And especially with you all being in college during that time too. I think that added a whole other layer of of navigating college I had daughters navigating college during the pandemic. So that holds a whole other layer of that being your clock. But yeah, I know time flies when we're having fun. All right. Well, listeners, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for taking some time to get to know my wonderful team and learn a little bit more about their process and what they're learning and what they contribute here. Let us know what you'd like to hear. If there's something you haven't heard from us, and we won't go as long. I was thinking about that too, Charlotte. We had a period of time where we did quite a few team together ones. And then we've had so many guest opportunities that I've gotten away from that. I'm like, I need to be intentional each season about bringing the team on to talk, bringing myself on solo, and not losing sight of that, because that's important for our listeners to hear from too. So thank you both for joining me today. Thank you for all you do. Thank you to our listeners. Thanks for joining us. If this is your first time listening, go back and check out these episodes. Heck, start from season 1. We have 170-ish episodes out there now. I'm give or take on that number. And that is and more than 170 women, because sometimes we have multiple people on there. So maybe closer to 200 voices that you can hear from, their stories, their resources. Just such a great opportunity to learn and grow for yourself, and also informing about other people's stories and how you can show up for them. So take the time to go do that. Thanks for joining us today. We'll be back in a couple of weeks at season 9. We'll catch be on with the hilarious and authentic Gretchen Skoser. You're going to get to meet her on September 9th. Next week, it's all about our book. Go buy our book. Go to embracinglayers.com. Check out our book. Buy our book. Get on our Substack. Join that book club. Bring your friends with you. It's a great thing to do in community. Next week's all about our book. If you'd like to work with me one-on-one, go to embracinglayers.com. Let's have a 30-minute free session together and see how it is this F.E.E.L framework can best support you. But thanks so much for being with us today. Take good care of yourselves, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks with our new episode with Gretchen Skoser. Take care.